Welcome back, guys. It is the Brothers Geek Out podcast. It's Kibler here. Hope you guys are well and safe. Guys, make sure you check out the podcast. It's on all streaming platforms. But I want to introduce you to the wonderful Rob. I'm going to let you take over and do the intro, dude, because I think you got a better one than me.
Hi, guys. My name is Rob Ayling. I'm a writer and director based in London and Bristol. Yeah, I'm the guy that brought Batman to Bristol. That's pretty much what I'm known as most of the time. So yeah, I'll take it.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome, dude. I remember watching Living in Crime Alley, and I've seen your guys' journey so far. And what was that moment you were like, I want to do this?
Well, as in make the film, you mean? Like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, mate, I could. This is an even longer story, to be honest with you. I mean, I'll try and condense it as best as
it's cool. It's cool. It's all right.
Like all the way back in 2017, I had written the script for Living in Crime Alley because I had lost my job, and being made redundant sucks. It's like one of the worst feelings ever, apart from diseases and getting stabbed, but that's another story. the point is, it's a horrible feeling, and what's even worse is that I was also feeling creatively low as well. So as you can see, I'm surrounded by my fandom, and I was writing essentially what I knew. I was financially poor. I was living in a deprived area in London at the time, and I'm a product of a single parent as well. So my father passed away when I was very young. I've been brought up by my mum, and I started asking a lot of questions like, well, how would I be able to survive in a particular area as I am right now, even with a child? And it makes things even more worse. But eventually I started wandering around the room and seeing my fandom and thinking, well, actually, what's an interesting question as well to add to that, and kind of a unique twist in a way, is what if we told a Gothamite story, the ground level story of Gotham City, Park Row, Crime Alley, where Batman is to deal with this situation? How can a man who has been brought up through privilege and, money be able to deal with a family who have had all of these financial problems? And that intrigued me. So I wrote this script, and it made me both creatively enthusiastic for some time, and I sent it to a couple of fiction festivals, and it picked up a few nods here and there, which was lovely. But then it took me literally a whole other year to realize that was the film I should have been making all this time. And I'll never forget one of the things that my friend said to me. I mean, he knows who he is as well. So when he hears this back, he'll be like, oh, of course. But he said to me, when I eventually got myself together financially and, got myself into an agency, doing my like filming and editing, and he turned to me and said, you're a filmmaker that doesn't make films. And I remember that hit hard to me, because I was like, well, I said two things. I said, dude, I just bought you a coffee, like, why are you gonna treat me like that? And then secondly, I also said, you know what, you're absolutely right. I'm not making films for myself anymore. I'm making films for clients and other people. And don't get me wrong, that's absolutely wonderful, but once you make something for you, it's so much more refreshing, and it's the freedom of expression, essentially.
Of course.
And by the end of 2018, I realized I've got to make this film now. Shoulda, woulda, coulda is the worst thing you can ever say to yourself. The best thing you can say to yourself is, at least I gave it a shot, and I have at least tried. So it was late 2018 that I realized I have to make this film, because it's the film that has saved me throughout 2017 and 2018, to the point where I was like, I got to get this made. And that's what I dedicated my entire 2019 to, was making Living in Crime Alley.
Nah, that's absolutely inspiring to hear, dude, because I can relate to that totally, because I've had that conversation. I had a similar situation with a friend where we went past my old secondary school and saw one of my old teachers, and they were asking what we were up to. And my friend was saying, he's in marketing, blah, blah, blah. And I said that I was just working in retail. And then after the teacher had went and we were driving home, he was like, why did you say that for? You're an artist. You're an artist. I've seen you're an artist. You draw, you make great things for clients. You make great things for yourself. I would have said you're an artist. I've always told my friends and family you're an artist. Why didn't you say that? And that hit me. And that was probably about 10 years ago. And it just like really put me on the spot and made me really think about where I was going with the type of work I was doing and what am I going to stay in retail, which I ended up leaving. You know, I think 6 years ago, when I met my other half, I left that world of retail work and went into freelance and did artwork and things like that. So it's quite inspiring to hear other people's journey from that one little situation, or somebody said something that inspires you to kind of create something for yourself. And I know how much more it means as well in that process. The other thing as well, dude, because I love the cinematography of what you did on that as well.
Right.
The retail job I was in Jessop's, so I worked with cameras, and as it changed from film photography to digital photography to digital SLR, like when it came to getting the look that you wanted in the short, how did you go about getting that the look? Did you sit down and say this is the? Did you storyboard it all out and things like that?
In terms of the cinematography, first of all, you know, all praise has to go towards Ross Wilson, Scott Wilson, who are brothers, and their partner as well, Barry Wilkinson, who were the cinematography team for Living in Crime Alley. And there was two factors to that, as you've mentioned already, one of which was storyboarding, which my background before I became a director was concept art and storyboard art. So I used to concept and storyboard art for loads of directors and commercial directors, and I've eventually just decided to do my own storyboarding for my own work as well. And that's where I find the most fun in the pre-production stage. I love screenwriting, don't get me wrong, but storyboarding for me is where you first see the film.
That's right.
Literally out on the page rather than trying to pre-visualize it through through the script.
That's right.
So actually having the pencil hit the page and drawing it out is just wonderful for me. And so the entire film was completely storyboarded, almost like a comic book paneled version of the film, essentially.
Cool.
And then it was just a discussion with Ross about how we could bring these panels to life, because I was very particular on certain ways things were being drawn and lit in a certain way. So shading was a big factor within it as well. And Batman for me is a classic film noir character. He's a classic horror movie character as well. And you know, he was brought about through the 1930s and 39, and through the influences of German expressionist cinema is all there. And even, at a time in which silent movie era was pretty much the dominant piece of cinema, because of course there was, people were still hesitant to use sound recording at the time. So for me, it was always about trying to tell the story as visual as possible and having the sound interplay with these images afterwards. And which is why there's hardly any dialogue within the film as well, because I think as a medium, film is, it's very much, it is a visual medium. And
that's right.
If we can understand the film without dialogue or the sound on, then I think that is the mark of a good film, personally.
That's right.
And we spoke about loads of references. It was, it was hard not to, but we did refer back to some of the previous Batman films, because they are ingrained within our images.
Of course, they are.
And we were looking at what was done in the past, what works, what doesn't quite work. And then we just thought about, think about other favorite movies of ours. And eventually we did come round to the idea of actually, we both were on the same page of, no, it's a film noir.
Yeah.
It's classic 1930s, 40s film noir with horror elements there. So,
no, that's brilliant. Absolutely. The fact that you said about using less dialogue and letting the visuals do the work for you, I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of like the old movies like Charlie Chaplin and just seeing a story through that. And you've implemented that so well in Living in Crime Alley, so well. And I adore the visuals, dude. As an artist and as a guy who does storyboards and post-production work, it's one of my favorite elements to try and see how do I bring that onto a live screen, which was absolutely brilliant. You're welcome, dude. So, Batman, what was it, dude? Originally, I know that's your main key fandom. Like, what was it that brought you to that character?
So what brought me to that character, as in, so where did it all begin with that character?
Yeah,
or
that's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So there's two factors to that. There's one, picking up a comic book, issue 430, named Fatal Wish. It's a pink cover with Batman on top of a rooftop, and I remember picking it up in a market in Walthamstow, and which is where I grew up.
You're local to me, dude.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. There we go.
That's right. Yeah.
So then you'll probably remember. So down Walthamstow High Street, there's like the market stands, and
that's right.
There used to be a comic book stand that used to be there for like, I think, about 10 years.
Yeah.
And sadly, I don't know where they've gone now, but they've gone. But my memory of being down Walthamstow High Street and getting the local shopping through, all the fruit and veg and all that stuff, and then eventually this character's wings, popped at me, and the pink cover and the blue and the yellow emblem. I saw it, looked over, and I think we paid 50p for it as well, and bought this comic. And it's funny enough about Crime Alley itself. It's about the Gotham Citizens perspective. It's also a retelling of the origin story. What I didn't know at the time, which I now know, is it does follow the events. It's a one-off issue after the events of the death of the second Robin, I believe, Jason Todd. So I think it is. I might be wrong on there. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I believe it follows a tragic event after Batman's life. So when you're reading this, you kind of see, for me, the similarities of losing my father at a young age, and Bruce losing his parents at a young age as well, and seeing him actually use grief actually to better himself, not to let it completely break him down to a point of misery, but to a point where he says, I don't want this to happen to anybody else. Yeah. So, and that's what I see. Batman, to me, is almost like another father figure to me. And what I see cinema and my craft of film and filmmaking is that it's a way for me to create stories so people can not feel as bad as they once were. It's an amazing feeling to take audiences to another place entirely. Even if, no matter how short it is, whether it's 5 minutes, 90 seconds, 10 minutes, or 90 minutes, the experience of taking an audience from another place entirely is something really, truly extraordinary. And it's something that we can't take for granted. Right. I know that's quite a long, extended answer of what I was.
No, of course.
But the other thing I was going to mention was, of course, the animated television series. I remember the first episode I watched was Riddler's Reform.
That's right.
And being completely blown away by, because I remember I didn't start from the beginning of the episode. I'd like catched it on like ITV or Channel 4. It might have been ITV actually.
I think, yeah.
And I remember capturing the moment where he's interrogating the Riddler in an office, and he's just he's there in the shadows, and he's like, I'm on to you, Enigma, and everything, and it's just like, and I recognized the character. I put two and two together. I was like, oh, so this must be this. And everything from that episode onwards, it was just epic. It felt really extraordinary, and you couldn't find the words as a child then, but as an adult now, you look back over it, you'd think, this is just so bloody good, like so good. Like, as you were saying before about the visuals, they were
amazing,
extraordinary.
Extraordinary. And absolutely amazing. What Bruce Timm and what they did for that show is groundbreaking to this day, that I can still sit down and, I could go through all the seasons. It doesn't bother me. I'll watch them all day long. It's captivating when you see stuff like that. I suppose that's what's brought me into the fandom when I originally started into comic books as an artist, and how the pages just popped out at me. That was my, now we see everything on screens, but that was my, I don't know, my fantasy world that I absolutely adored and loved. It popped out to me. I understood it. I didn't know how much love I would have for it later on in my life, to find out that I still live and breathe this fandom through me. And it's been amazing. And to see how much Batman has played in our generations through comic books, movies, animation, and gaming, and it's overwhelmingly just amazing, because I get to still enjoy this now, 40 years along in my journey, and that I still get to see a new Batman movie coming out next year. So I'm, absolutely excited. Who is your favorite on-screen Batman, dude?
Oh, and I'm glad you said on screen. Because I mean, I have no problem saying this. So for me, if this was a question, who is the best Batman, it's Kevin Conroy, like all the way, all the way. Best on-screen Batman. Now that's the question you're asking me. So I would say that the best on-screen Batman that we've had is probably Michael Keaton. However, if we're saying who is the better Bruce Wayne, then I'm going with Christian Bale. Because there are two things in regards to Batman, and it sounds completely obvious, and I'm going to say it anyway, but it's Bruce Wayne and Batman.
That's right.
When you're casting for your Batman, you're casting fundamentally for your Bruce Wayne.
That's right.
And that's why, for me, Christian Bale is a fantastic Bruce Wayne. He is given the time, first of all, to actually be Bruce Wayne and actually shown the vulnerability of that man.
That's right.
And basically a boy trying to become a man throughout the set of the 3 movies. And what I absolutely love about those movies is it has the fundamental sentence carrying through of why do we fall, so we can learn to pick ourselves up, which is why in The Dark Knight Rises it's so beautifully told in the pit thing, where it finally climbs up out of the cave that he's been trying to get out of since he was a young boy. I think that's extraordinary.
It's amazing.
In regards to your question of who is the better Batman, it's Michael Keaton, because fundamentally the suit does most of the job, absolutely, but it is Keaton's performance, especially through his own physicality and the voice, and he's got these extraordinary expressive eyes as well.
He does.
Where he's got the mind of someone who's very troubled, but also someone who's got a kind heart to him as well.
Yeah.
Which is why I always love his performance in his performances, I should say, in both the original Batman and Batman Returns, because his eyes do most of the talking most of the time. And I love the fact that when he does speak, it's very either downplayed and very subtle and to the point, and it's not I hate to do it, but gravelly. That kind of, it's not forced.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I'm a fan of Michael Keaton as well. I'm excited to see him reprise the role again in the new Flash movie.
Me too.
And it's Christian Bale. I've got a thing for Ben Affleck at the moment still, only because of the visuals. Yeah, like he looks amazing as the character, but Christian Bale does steal it as Bruce Wayne. He's Batman Begins is actually one of my favorite. It's in my top 5 favorite movies of all time, because of that journey that he took. And that was so important, because we didn't really get to see him in the full suit towards kind of like the end of the movie. Getting to see his journey and his struggles and him growing into this character and taking it upon himself to, I'm going to, strike fear into the criminals. I absolutely adore it. And I love what Christopher Nolan did, his visuals, Hans Zimmer's soundtrack. It came together. I remember watching it the first time in cinema, and I remember seeing it with my friends, and I didn't tell them at the time. I was just in awe, and they were like asking me questions, because they know usually after a movie like that, Kibler's always got something to say. And I was like, you know what, guys, I'm not gonna go home yet. I'm gonna get another ticket and I'm gonna watch that again. So I watched it twice. Yeah,
Wow,
I
that's
had like
amazing.
a 30-minute break and I went back again, and then I went back the following day, and I think I saw it up to it's the most amount of times I've been to the cinema for that one movie. I saw that film in cinema
That's
10 times.
that's awesome. That's yeah. I mean, look, as you know, they say 90% of your audience are only going to watch your film once. So the fact that the film has an effect on you that way, to actually go and watch it multiple times, especially in the same day, that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I didn't have the same experience with you with Batman Begins, but I do remember watching Batman Begins and thinking, I love the fact that this is taken seriously.
Yeah.
I love the fact that here is a film that actually is taking this incredibly seriously. But I think the film that did it for me, definitely, and it's a cliche answer now, I feel, but
that's all right.
I'm 17 years old. I'm in the IMAX for the first time, and The Dark Knight, the opening shot is the window and the smash fruit, and the rest of the movie plays out.
Yeah.
And I'm there as an art design student, as a training to be a cartoonist at the time, and I'm thinking, wow, if this is where movies are going right now, then sign me up, because I want to make movies. I want to make movies just like that movie, because Batman Begins was like the small step of pure greatness, and then you get to The Dark Knight, which to many people is a masterpiece.
It is.
It is. And for me, as I said, as a 17-year-old, watching that and thinking, God, that someone's taken my childhood and shown that it can be both fun, but incredibly terrifying, but also incredibly immersive at the same time. And
man,
you know, they were only able to do that in books.
That's right.
Beforehand, and now they're doing it with cinema. And my God, it was such an awakening moment for me, that just a breath of fresh air, that's when I knew, you know, if I'm to pursue this, I've got to step up, and you know, I can take, you know, we can make even the most ludicrous the most terrifying and the most believable as well.
No, of course, that's amazing. It's amazing that something like movies and, you know, these characters that can implement themselves into our lives and really help us create more. I mean, there's one thing that I say to the listeners, and usually my brother joins us on the podcast as well, and it's one is being true to yourself and working towards the passions that you love and trying to implement that into your lifestyle. That will keep you kind of like, you know, reality still pushes in, but it keeps you happy. It keeps you safe. It keeps you stress-free. Like I learned 10 years ago, I want to live a bit of a stress-free life, and I don't want to be like trying to be somebody else. I love what I do, and I adore this fandom, and I want to continue this moving forward. So that's amazing to hear that movie did that to you at 17, because I'm trying to remember for me what it was. I think for me, like, it was originally the X-Men comics, and I know that that played a big part of me growing up in. So I grew up in Tottenham. I live in. My mum lives in Seven Sisters, but when I was going to school, it was just down the road near White Hart Lane School. It was called Northumberland Park, and I was probably the only Asian guy in the school at the time, and it really hit me, because I was like, I just feel like I'm not fitting in, and found it really difficult. And then my uncle, who was almost like my older brother, he handed me the X-Men comics, because have a read of these, and you'll see diversity, you'll see different people, different cultures, and you'll see, and they've all got superpowers, and they look like me. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know, it helped me towards pushing my artwork out more and getting to know people as well. It really helped me with confidence as well, that I need to take that step forward to kind of like find my place, and eventually did. And, you know, it's weird when people say, you know, people have different ways of getting out there. And I was like, comics. The comics did it for me. But I mean, I think my first, when it comes to the Superman was the first character that I was introduced to. My uncle was an artist. He when I saw him draw, I was like, oh my God, I want to be able to draw like this. He came from a background where the elders and the culture didn't really believe in artwork and always thought it was the devil's work and you're not going to get paid for it. But you know, I've got to be that person in the family to kind of pave the way forward and see my youngsters now, and they're like, oh my God, Kibbs, I can't believe you actually went through with this. But for me, it was like, I'm going to be true to myself, and I want to be able to kind of push that out to people. And I love seeing people working on their passions, as of seeing your work as well has been absolutely amazing. Do you still draw though, dude? Do you still do? You went for a cartoonist, yeah?
Yeah, no, I still draw here and there. Mainly my own work, if I'm honest. I don't really do as much commissions anymore for other directors. Probably because I've listed myself as a director now, so I do get less work than that. But
no, of course.
I love just having, because I feel like when you get to a point, because I love what I absolutely do, but I love just taking a pad and just sketching just randomly. And I think if I was to go back to that now, where I was making it more of a, you know, of a job for, because actually this is the best way of summing it up, is that the best job in the world is something you love to do, and it doesn't feel like a job.
That's right.
And yeah, that's why I still draw freely now, and you know, for my own projects, is because it's the one point in the conceptual of the film where I actually feel, well, first I feel completely in control, just to have my mind completely thrown onto the page, but it's just bringing those images out there and having that freedom to play with with a pen or a pencil. Funny enough, I only draw with a pen now, because the artist I learned from, he said, you subconsciously learn how to be a better artist by drawing with a pen, because you are barriered by the pencil. You know that you can erase something, so
that's right.
Put the pencil to one side and just draw freehand and see what happens. And I find that still quite refreshing even to this day. And it sounds crazy even to say this now, but all the storyboards for all the work that I've done is through biro art. And
it's amazing.
People find that really baffling that I do that, but to me it's the best way that you can learn, but it's also the best way that you can show the successes, but also the failures within the sketches itself.
Of course, yeah, no, definitely. My uncle is a big biro fan. He still does sketches in that. I think his favorite character that he loves drawing in the biro is the Punisher, and it amazes me on how much detail that he's put through. And I'm like, I've implemented that. I still do biro sketches as well, time to time, but I'm still a pencil guy, dude.
Sure.
I see some of my mistakes in my biro work, and I'm like, okay, how do I take this out? Because it is a talent and a skill in its own, dude, to do that. So I genuinely rate you for that. I just, it comes to a point where I'm like, I keep noticing my mistakes in it as an artist, and we like to be perfectionists when we're doing something. But I've realized, like, now my art journey, well, I've gone digital now anyway, so I do doodles and stuff for myself, but digital has helped me move forward for clients' works, and if I'm working on books and things like that for customers. But even my own stuff, like I've realized, like in my journey, like after I had my daughter, I was like, I've always wanted to bring out a comic book. I never did, and then, you know, during lockdown, I was blessed to become, well, not become, but put on furlough. And I was like, okay, you know what? All these unfinished projects I had on my tick list, I can do them. And I did my first book for my little girl, and it was a storyboard cartoon of her traveling to the moon with her favorite stuffed animal toy, and she absolutely loves it because she gets to see us in there as well. And getting to do that in digital kind of helped the time process to get the work up quite quickly and say, all right, you know what? I can do this.
That's wonderful, man. That's really touching as well, actually.
Yeah, no, definitely. I kind of always she'll I wonder what she's going to say when she's like 10 years old, like, Daddy, when does the second part come out? But I like the one thing for me, I think personally, and I think for a lot of us that are in this industry, it was what sort of piece of legacy can I leave behind? Because It's not about me having numbers or this, that, or, you know, famous, money, the rest of it. You know, it was, for me personally, it was that little piece of legacy, you know, that, you know, later on my great grandkids be like, oh shit, my great granddad, he did like 500 pieces of podcasts. Well, let's go back in time and watch that. So for me, it's that. And with watching Living in Crime Alley, like you've left a piece of your legacy on there, dude, which must be like really, you must have been proud of yourself, dude, when you first saw the final cut.
Well, this is the funny thing. Like, I wish the answer was, oh yeah, I was super confident. Yeah, like I was, you know, I saw the cut and I was like, boom, I smashed it. Which is not the case whatsoever. Literally was not the case. Because deep down, and even right now, I'm terrified. You know, it's always being a creative, as you know, is a terrifying thing because you throw your work up for judgment. You know,
that's right. That's right.
Can be nice, but they're also incredibly harsh. You know, it's a harsh world. And the other factor within this as well, there's the audience and then there's the fandom. There's the fans themselves, you know. So when I made the film, you know, it was very much well, I like it. I made the film that I wanted to make. That's right. That's fundamentally what it should be. It's in each project you do, it should always be, how can I throw something into myself in there? And if I've done that, then that's absolutely great. But also, how can I be truthful within that? That's another thing that we can be in that. But making sure everyone else in a collaborative medium is getting something to say within that as well. So if I'd managed to do that, then that's when I know I've done my job well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, like I be honest, I was terrified of, you know, how the audience were going to react to Living in Crime Alley. Yeah. And for me, when the reactions started to pile on through, you know, the comments came through and, you know, the festivals came piling in, it was, even still to this day, even though we're going to be finishing our festival circuit in December of this year, it has all been incredibly overwhelming, you know, because it's astonishing to see that it's finding a new audience every single day. But that's the beauty of now the streaming services and platforms like YouTube and Vimeo, is that
that's right.
They will find a new audience some way, and you know, through podcasts as well, and through multiple mediums as well, where people will hear and talk about they've discovered something, and that's again really refreshing. And you know, we wouldn't have made it to, so last weekend we were at Comic-Con, and we wouldn't we wouldn't have been there if it hadn't been for the fandom.
That's amazing.
That's appreciating what we've done, and because it started off, as I said from the beginning, it started off as a piece of expression of trying to make myself creatively happy again. And you know, 4 years later, it's still being talked about, and that's, for me, is a really lovely legacy to leave behind. Is if we've got something to say, not just I've got something to say, but if all the other creatives have got something to say that's been implemented here, that for me is part of the legacy. Awesome. Although I'm not going to lie, it sounds pretty good when someone says, you're the man that brought Batman to Bristol. That's a pretty cool legacy to leave behind.
That's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I was going to ask you about Comic-Con as well, having your own panel there. I didn't get to go, unfortunately, last week, but that must have been amazing, dude. You must have been geeking out, because I know I would have been up on there. Yeah.
Again, as I've said before, this journey up to this point has been overwhelming, and MCM Comic-Con was very overwhelming, because if you can believe it, well, you can, because 2020 existed. This was the third time we screened the film in front of a live audience. Everything else has been through online festivals, you know, virtual clapping of people going, or whatever, maybe not the facial expression, but definitely been that, or a clapping emoji popping up on screen. But there's nothing like having an audience reaction, you know. And we were sat on stage and the audience are right in front of us. So they were watching a massive screen which was above us, and we're looking at little like TV screen at the bottom there. And I'm not even watching the film, to be honest with you, because we've watched the film thousands upon thousands of times. So I'm just watching the audience. And the certain moments within the film, when Batman arrives, when father pulls a gun on the robbery, and all of those things in between, I did feel completely emotionally overwhelmed by it all. And I remember even Vincent, he tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "You're right," because I had to duck down because I was just literally just like, this is just it's too much. It's too much, because I think even like having, so the two screenings we had before that, one was in London and the other was in I lie, actually. That was the fourth time. Sorry. So one was in London, one was in Bristol, the other was in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And then we're back to London again for the a few weeks ago. And by far the best audience was the one at MCM London, because it was just such, you had a lovely applause at the end, and which carried through the end of the credits as well, which again was
amazing.
It was lovely. It was amazing. Really lovely. And, to have people afterwards say, they loved this, they loved that, and this, and this, and this. And there was a student who came up to me at one point and they were dissecting, all the bits of like, the fandom, like all the references and all that stuff. And there's two things that went through my head. I was like, one, I love the fact that they've got this.
Yeah.
And two, is this how I sounded like when I was a film student at university? Literally, I'm thinking to myself, God, I sound like a fucking dork, if that's the case. Like, literally, they're all dissect. So I'm just thinking to myself, so did someone, like when I would go up to a filmmaker and be like, oh, I love the way that you did this angle of the camera going like this, and I'm like, God, if I sounded like that, then yeah. And the fact that the role reversal thing comes to that point now where someone's looking at your work and they're being inspired by that. That's
pretty cool.
That's really cool. And it's, again, it's something not to be taken granted, and to be humble about it as well.
Of course. And coming from your backgrounds as well, and what you went through at that time to get this out there, it is a nice reward. But being humble, oh my God, it is like the main thing. And then they realize that you're the same down to earth guy they are, and it's just an amazing. You have your moment, isn't it? There, you have your moment there. That's it must have been a great experience, dude. Do you have any other projects coming up soon? Well, without any spoilers, but anything in the works, maybe? You don't have to say anything, but
no, I can say. So there was one film that I made during the first national lockdown, which is in the festival circuit. It's actually going to be finishing in December as well this year.
Cool.
It's playing at the Ayling Film Festival.
Awesome.
There's that. Living in Crime Alley's festival circuit, as I mentioned, will be ending in December, with its final screening being in Los Angeles. It'll be at the LA Comic Con, which is
mind blown.
Again, crazy, just crazy.
Mind blown.
And I'm hoping to go out there, which
awesome.
Would be lovely.
That'd be
if I
great.
can make the dates work and everything.
Yeah.
But we did recently, so I did produce a film this year with the VFX artist of the Batman film. So Barry Wilkinson has written and directed a lovely Jurassic Park fan film called Stegosaurus, which was actually released yesterday on the 2nd of November. And yeah, just a lovely, excuse me.
It's all right.
Hate that when that happens. Right,
it happens, dude. It happens.
All right, how do I get back to... There we go. So I'll start from Stegosaurus, if that's cool.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Cool. So yeah, the VFX artist Barry Wilkinson made a lovely film called Stegosaurus, in which I was the producer of that film.
Awesome.
So that was released a couple of days ago, and so you can check that out, of course. But the next thing in the pipeline for me, writing and directing wise, is a feature film. I'm making the next big leap.
Awesome.
So I've written and I've written and I'm going to be producing and directing my first feature, which has been 6 years in the making. It's a comedy, drama, thriller, bonkers adventure, one location feature.
Awesome.
And I hope to start production early next year, and hopefully by the end of next year, we'll have at least a cut, if not the finished film. I mean, that's incredibly ambitious, I know, but heck, they made Ghostbusters in 10 months. So
I know. It's so true. It's so true. So true.
But yeah,
10 months. Wow.
That's the next big leap of faith, is the feature film for me.
That's amazing, dude. I am very looking forward to your journey, dude. And I'm sure I'll be hitting you up, getting you on another podcast again, and doing the plugins as usual.
Definitely.
But dude, again, massive thank you for joining in on the show today, man. If there was a message that you would to give to the listeners and the people out there about your passion, what would it be, dude?
What would be the advice I'd give?
Yeah.
I guess the one piece of advice I would give to anybody, because it's something I wish I'd been taught at a very young age, and I think this is something that kids nowadays don't know about, and I think it's one of the things that we should be teaching in schools, but also as part of the creative industry as well, is, for the love of God, please just don't be afraid to fail, because that is part of the process. You have to fall in order to learn to pick yourself up.
Awesome.
That is
true.
It's true. It really is.
It's a fundamental, dude. It's so important, and it's not something that's actually taught. And rejection, and going through, even a driving test. You fail, go back, you do it again. Don't let it get you down. You have to pick yourself up. So no, dude, that's a great message, dude, man. I know they're gonna love that one. I'm gonna quote that when I start promoting this as well. That'd be great. But dude, where can we find you on social media, so I can put them in the links below, guys? Living in Crime Alley, the link will be in the description box, and if you're listening to it on the streaming streaming platforms, then check out the description. The link will be there to click on and have a watch, and drop your thoughts in the comments, guys. But where else can we find you, dude, on social media?
So you can find me on @RobAyling on Instagram, or @RobAylingFilm on Twitter.
Awesome. That's great, dude. Absolutely amazing. Dude, thank you so much for joining on the show again. And hopefully we catch up soon, dude.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, thank you. This has been fun, and really great to meet a fellow creative who takes his craft seriously, first of all, but also does it for really lovely reasons as well. Like I absolutely loved the fact that you said that you wrote a book and created a comic for your daughter. I thought that was wonderful. That was
thank you, dude. Thank you. I think it's really important I think my passion runs deep for the fandom so much that when it came to doing stuff for other people, I realized what you said was key. When you do it for yourself, you realize how much love you have for it. And it played a major part and along my journey as well. Like I realized, because I did dibble dabble in photography and art and things like that. Photography, filmography, and kind of came back into art because of a tragic incident that happened to me as well. Right. It was weird. I stopped actually drawing from the age of 15 till I was 30. Not many people know that, but anyway, creeping to my 40s now. But I stopped art for 15 years, and in between then, I did photography and cinematography, and with something tragic that happened in my life, brought art back with me as well. And it was like, oh my God, I missed being me, and this is what I used to love. 16-year-old Kibbs was an amazing artist. How do I make 30-year-old Kibbs get back into this again? So it really peaked on me getting back to myself, my passion, my love, my fandom, and the things I love on a daily basis to push it into my reality as well, which has helped me push things forward. And luckily, my younger brother who lives in Singapore, who joins us on the podcast as well, he implemented that sort of stuff with what he does as well, and he has the fandom still run through. And he's he's a fighter. He does mixed martial arts, and he's even bought the guys that are I think we had Muay Thai champion from on the last podcast, and you forget how much people love this fandom as well, that even though he's a fighter, he absolutely adores the Marvel and DC world, and it was just
Right.
it just brought a different concept to the conversation. And I mean, this is why we do it, dude. Is the love of it, because having people from the different industries talk about it, but then realizing they have a deep connection and love to some of the characters that we've grown up and adored and loved as well in the process. So massive thank you again, Rob, man. It's much appreciated.
It's
Cool.
been a pleasure.
No, thank you so much. Cool.